All right, we are official. We are on the YouTube Live. What's going on, everybody? And we are going to start in 3, 2, 1. And welcome to another great episode of Framing New Heights. My name is Michael Hicks, and I have a wonderful guest again today based off of your responses and the likes and the feedback that we got from you guys. And today, before I bring on our guest again, I'm sure you guys know who that is. We are going to, based off of your acknowledgement, your feedback, we're going to talk a little bit about relationships. Now, mind you, we're not clinical psychologists from that aspect of relationships, but we're going to provide you our stories of the importance of where we got today and how we've gotten there and dating and all that fun stuff. Please welcome my guest today, the one and only, the truly, Amber Dobson. Hello, Amber.
Hello, I'm happy to be back.
Round 2, here we go. All right, so let's kind of get into what we kind of been talking about and discussing, and you know, thank you, first of all, you guys, for your feedback on everything and what you really truly want from this podcast, because this podcast is all about empowerment, changing lives, uplifting you, framing new heights. That's why we call it Framing New Heights. Time to get better than you were yesterday. But let's talk a little bit about our story and where we kind of came from and how we got there. You know, it's kind of been like, it's not a linear point, meaning you just don't go A to B. It's like you go on all kinds of loops. It's kind of like a success story, and I feel like that's where I'm at in today. And where, you know, with the relationship piece, how important would you say you need to know yourself before you can get into a quality relationship?
Well, I think from my experience now, for the listeners, Michael has a little more experience in this arena than I
you know
do.
what? That's her easier way of saying I'm older, you guys.
No, honey. I think that anytime you are taking the step to put yourself out there, whether it's putting yourself back out there for a job experience or a new career, but in this case, to find love, really, to put yourself back out, you have to be good with yourself. And that takes a lot of work, and sometimes work that you don't want to do, because you really have to find and explore some of the more negative parts about yourself that you want to correct or want to push yourself to do better in. And that's like a journey on its own.
It's a complete journey, and it took me though a long time to figure that out, you guys. And just a little story about myself is I got out of something that happened that was maybe a wrong way of allowing it to happen, but I remember being very prayerful and asking my creator to provide me with an answer. And it might not have been to most people the right answer, but it was an avenue for me to get out. Otherwise, I never would have got out of it. And then when I got out of that one relationship, I got into something that was completely worse, which was like, wow. And not to go into too much, but I ended up leaving this one person to get in with another person that I found out that she was married. And I did not know
Whoa.
that. I did not know that. And that was rough. I had to go through therapy, and we all should have a coach of some sort. And I've talked about this numerous times on podcasts, a coach, a life coach, a therapist, someone that can really provide you with a roadmap to those detours. And
Can I ask,
yeah,
babe, do you think it was after that relationship where you decided that you needed to do some?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
So was it the big relationship and that ending and then jumping into another one and finding out she was married, or was it something inside you that you were like, whoa, I need to pause and
Yeah.
like do something different?
Well, I had to do something different because it wasn't working and I was failing miserably and I was hurting people in the process. And I realized that I was self-absorbed. I was doing things my way, and I was doing things the way
Mhm.
that shouldn't have been done. And it goes into our topic that we're going to kind of address here is finding yourself. And you got to be alone, y'all. You got to be alone. I was that guy that went from relationship to relationship, and I really got a chance with everything prior to you, Amber, is I was able to reflect on myself for over a year. It was hard. There are some nights, I teach vulnerability as a male, and there's nights, you guys, where you're crying. You're like, why me? Why not you, right? Why not you? And then you talk to your therapist, and then they give you suggestions, or your coach. And one of the things that she said to me is she said, Michael, you need to date. I didn't date, though. Let me back up a little bit. She told me not to date because of how ugly everything was.
Sure.
She's like, work on yourself,
Okay.
give yourself some time, figure out what you're looking for, and then let's reconvene. I think it was like 4 or 5 months later.
Okay.
She's like, let's reconvene, and then let's figure out like the direction from there. And then I dated y'all.
Me too.
And I dated a lot. Right? Did you date a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
I mean, you gotta keep a schedule.
Yeah,
I
in
was
fact,
dating so much.
In fact, I think there's a funny story. I think was it the M's? What was this? You want to share that story real quick? That was kind of funny. And I knew this all after y'all. If you're checking in.
Well, I think we'll get to that too, because that's important also in our journey. Yeah, I mean, you have to put in the work. You have to be alone. You have to kind of lean into friends and family, but also find peace
Yeah.
with yourself.
Yeah.
That, I think, was easier for you than it was for me. Maybe not. It's hard for me to be alone. And just sit with my thoughts and feelings. But I learned through therapy to journal, to text my therapist when I'm feeling a certain way. I found a lot of serenity in music and going for walks. That's something like I still do to this day when I need space or just to quiet my thoughts. But there was a point, it was after I remember it, my 38th birthday, that I was like, yep, I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Ready to go, meaning
ready to start dating, ready to do this.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell anyone. That's not true. I told one person. And I got on an app, just one dating app, just one.
She's better than I was. I think I was on like a multiple of them.
I created a profile, and away we went. And wow, that's an experience all on its own. I mean, that is something I had never done. But I met some good people, some good guys, some good men. And I don't regret that at all. But the funny story that you were alluding to is that there was a time I was dating 3 guys, this one included, and all their names started with M.
They all start with M.
So my dad called them the 3 M's. How are the 3 M's?
Mm-hmm.
Because after a time, my family were very close, and so they knew of my dating stories, and it became kind of an inside joke. And I would talk about who the leaders of the pack were. Oh, this week it's this this week it's this so that's it was fun.
And during my story is that I got into dating like you had just talked about. And one thing I really found is those of you that are out there in the process of dating and figuring out, I want to tell you this, if you don't know your love language, it's going to be really difficult to get in any relationship. And what I mean by that is there's a book out there. It's called The Five Love Languages. And for those of you that I'm just giving you free advice right now, like a lot of people truly don't understand this, but you're all like, I want to be in a relationship. Well, one, you don't know how to manifest a relationship. One, you don't know how to pray about it. And two or three, you don't know how to ideally provide what you want in the world. What do you want? And let me just say this really quick is when you manifest these things, you learn a lot. One, because you tell the world, the universe, what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so for me, love languages are different. The person that I'm with, they may have words of or kinds of acts of service, words of affirmation, things of that nature. And mine might be time. Gifts, yeah, gifts. Right. And we've shared that. But go ahead. Those of you that are catching the live stream, I see we got quite a few of you on. Just we're gonna pause for a moment here. We have we're just gonna pause right now. Thank you all for tuning in, though. Appreciate the feedback here and the support. Someone's on call today, so she had to grab that call while we're doing this podcast. If you guys got any questions while you're catching us on the live stream, please drop it down in the comments and I will do my very best to answer them. This live stream is only obviously for individuals that follow me. And if you really like what we see here, is you can go to my Framing New Heights podcast YouTube page and you can get that there as well.
I'm going to call the person back
after
we're done.
Okay, perfect. And welcome back. Here we go.
Oh, hey.
I was just telling everybody that you're on call today. So
I am.
So I want to go back in talking about that. So after you've found those love languages that you know.
First, there is a free test online that you can take if you don't want to read the book. There's just the test.
And we'll put that in the description on the podcast so you guys can see that and find that yourself, because I think that would be a really good piece to take care of. But, when you're going through those phases and then, I began dating, one of the biggest things that I always asked is like, these are big questions that I would ask in the beginning of a relationship. How strong is your faith? Like, how important is that to you? How important is fitness? How important is all of these things? Because if you're going to attract the ideal mate, whether that's a male, female, whatever it might be, is you need to know what you want, right? And then also learn their love languages. And then the question you need to ask is like, well, how would you, if we were together, how would you want me to show you that I love you? Right?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say this now. It like literally brought me back to some of our dates. Michael was so inquisitive on anytime we were together. He would ask these really intense, deep questions. And sometimes it took me back, like, whoa, like what's going on? But I found myself learning so much more, not only about him, but about me. And so I don't think I've ever told you this.
Oh boy.
But in a way, I feel like that continued my journey of growth through you and dating you. And then so I would go on these other dates, you guys, and I would be like, oh, you're kind of boring. Like, no shame to any of those individuals. I just think they were doing relationships the only way they knew how to do it.
And a lot of people don't know how to do them.
Right. I didn't, but through my time dating, I would be like, you're not asking questions. We really have nothing to talk about. You're not like giving me that emotional availability that I need. I want a relationship that really has it all. And this was my time to find that. Like I didn't just want to date someone to like go to dinner and go to movies.
It's that factor of providing value, right? It's the value factor. Like, do they provide value? And one thing I've learned now in this stage in my life is, if I'm going to do something, what value does it provide me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were recently talking about, well, hey, well, why don't we hang out with X, Y, and Z? So the question I always ask is like, well, what value is that going to bring us? Like, is that going to bring us value, or can we spend that more with quality time together or with other people? So that's something to think about. I'm going to go back to talking a little bit about when I was dating. And again, I was dating multiple people at the time because I was told to do this because that was important. And one of the questions that came up constantly is like, well, where are we? What are we doing? Or I'm falling for you.
Not for me though.
Yeah, no, not from you at all, which probably is why we're here. Is you know, what are we? And I would always tell everybody, and for those of you that are in that world and you're dating, it's okay to date, you guys. I just want to tell you that date multiple people. And that's not from a whole like you're being a hoe. You just need to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Because if you're that person that's constantly jumping into relationship after the last one, it's gonna fail because you don't know anything about yourself and what you really like in a mate. And I would always say this one particular statement is, someone would ask me, well, what are we? I would say, well, I'm not exclusive with anybody. And now a lot of people are like, well, what does that even mean? Well, that means we're not exclusive. I'm not ideally with anybody right now. We are dating. I
You're with
reassure that.
yourself.
Oh, there you go. That's a good way of saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're definitely with yourself. And you know, when you are on this journey together and dating, you know, where do we begin to like let's bring everything back together. So we finally then came to an agreement, and as I was talking to my therapist about all of this, is like, hey, I really like someone. And now there's an age gap between Amber and I, and but I think we're totally at the same level. Um, you know what I mean?
Well, right. I knew that you were a little bit older when, I mean, because on your profile it says your age.
Yeah. Don't lie about your age. I'll tell you that too, you guys.
We know.
Because
We
I got called out on that a few times. Like, I was like, oh gosh, I don't look my age, so I'm gonna put this age, and then they would call you out on it. You're just a liar. Why do I want to date a liar?
Right.
How do you deal with that though? On the other hand, like truly, like when people, and I'm not gloating here by any sense. I don't look my age,
No.
and I'm telling people are telling me that. So, but how do you you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, the nice part about online dating is that it's like window shopping. So you get photos.
Yeah.
And you'd be silly to not put on flattering photos of yourself or good
Of course.
photos.
Of course.
So even though your age says this, your photo's showing this, someone's gonna like take a chance and be like, oh well, he says he's this age, but he looks really good. And you had a kid.
I did.
So that,
It's a big-
I mean,
yeah.
those were, in our last podcast, those were some of my expectations. So, or non-negotiables.
Yeah, non-negotiables.
rather.
Yeah. And I want to talk about this as when you are finding your ideal person, you guys, you got to ask that person. And when we were talking, I am constantly evolving. I'm evolving in my faith. I'm evolving as a better person. I'm evolving as a father. I'm just evolving as a better person. And my motto in my Live to Thrive program is always 1% better every single day in mind, body, and soul. And I saw that with Amber. You know, when we first dated, even on our conversation when we were out to Michigan, we had a really strong conversation. We're not going to get on that, talk about that here on the podcast. But, you know, one thing I realized about Amber is her journey of growth. And that really connected me with her. And even from the time frame that we started dating to where we are now, I see tremendous growth. And I hope you can say that about me, because I could not be with someone that doesn't want to get better. And for those of you that are maybe catching this clip or listening to it, you really need to evaluate of like when you're in dating, is this person going to stay the same forever? Or are they going to read self-help books? Are they going to listen to some good quality podcasts? What are they doing to improve their quality of life? What do you think about that?
I think for me, it looks a little bit different. Growth doesn't, you're very like black and white sometimes.
Oh, I'm not in vibrant colors, babe, which I teach my clients.
It's so silly. Um, it's really, what are you doing for yourself? Because I mean, frankly, I don't love podcasts. I listen to this one to be a good girlfriend and to support you. But that's not how I grow. I grow through experiences, through relationships, with friends, with family, with taking risks and doing different things at work, or like learning about your business and kind of seeing what you do to help others. I think my journey of growth is so holistic. It can't be like so secular into like certain things. Like I can't be given a checklist and be like, do you do all these things to help you grow? Well, I think every day I do something to grow in our relationship and myself.
Yeah, and does your lifestyle align with one another? You know, and as I stated on the last podcast where she and I were on, I wanted to date someone that didn't have kids, and then I realized that man, you need to date someone that's got kids. It's just the pieces of the puzzle fit together much better, I should say. And then the other big piece for me was like, how committed are you to a healthy lifestyle? You know, one thing I love about Amber is we will go work out. And for most people that ever would see me in the gym, and you could talk to the people that see me when I work out, I don't mess around. And I love, and not many people can hang a workout with me.
I can.
She can. And that to me is one of the most empowering, beautiful pieces in a relationship, because it teaches a few things, you guys that are listening. It teaches discipline, it teaches consistency, and it teaches like durability. Like we are sweating and putting in equity and putting in time. If she's putting in that effort for herself, can you imagine the amount of effort and work she's putting into the relationship? And that piece is vital with me. And I want to say this before I turn it back over to you. It's just like couples that work out together stay together. And I'm curious what our listeners think about that. Go ahead.
That might, I don't know, you might get some clapbacks on that.
Good,
I'm
I hope
not
so.
sure.
I hope so.
Well, I think to kind of make more sense of that, Michael was very clear. So in dating, you put out there what you want, who you are. Michael has always been Michael. And that,
What does that mean?
I'm going to get into it.
Okay.
Like you are wholeheartedly yourself in every situation. And I think it is a beautiful thing. Sometimes it can be a little intimidating, I think, or maybe people get put off maybe sometimes because you ask questions, you want to know about people.
Yeah.
And I think until there's that like relationship formed, then people are like, oh yeah, that's like who Michael is. That's like what he is. But what I've learned from relationships is not to hold him back in that. That is this is who I fell in love with. So who am I to say, don't like really be yourself? I think through our time together, we've learned where that needs to be like more or less, but that's because he's learned that. Like, that's not from me telling him. We have conversations about any and everything. And to the working out piece, people that know me, I am into sports and athletics. And I didn't come out and be like, oh, I'm like really athletic. I can like play sports and stuff. Those are things we found out
Together, yeah.
together. Like
yeah.
we played tennis together. We play basketball with our kids. Like it's really fun, and I love working out. I just struggled with consistently doing it, I think, as like a lot of people do. But knowing that I'm in a relationship where that's kind of really at the top for us, I want to feel good. I want to look good. I want to, uh, not to sound like conceited, but I want to like show up for you.
Absolutely. And I want to tell you guys this, that brings out a perfect point. Thank you guys for the comments. It's really far away for me to see. I don't know if you can read any of those comments on the live or anything like that. I don't know what that's saying, but appreciate you guys for the support. But I want to say this, you guys, be sexy, because you should always want to look good first for yourself. But secondly, when you're going to be intimate with that person, the last thing you want to do is make sure the lights are off. Like, for real. Men are very visual. Men are very visual. This is why men stray, is because their mate doesn't provide those things for them. Go ahead.
Well,
That's part of it.
part of,
Yeah.
okay, I can, sure. I mean, I don't, I'm confident in a lot of things, but I think having a good man support that
Yeah.
makes me as a woman feel more confident. It makes me feel like you love me. You love how I look. You love how I feel. Like you love those things.
Yeah.
So then I can kind of embrace that side of me.
Yeah, and that's important. But I just think, though, we have a limited amount of time on this planet, and one thing is, I like to set the standard for my family, and that's with health and fitness, and that can just transcend into the physical piece in a relationship too, which I think is really, really vital and really, really important, because dress up for your man, dress up for your woman, look good. And I think that's a really important piece. And one of the big three things that we talked about here are the three F's, and it's faith, friends, and family. And then we could probably switch a couple of those, but faith, I think, is number one. And today we had a really good job. I really enjoyed the fact that we did church online. We didn't go in person, but after we got done, we really sat down and we prayed, about things that we talked about peace during that process.
Mm-hmm.
And faith is a really big thing for me, and it took me quite some time to understand the importance of that, and how that doesn't just go with you. It should transcend in your family, with your relationships, with friends, whatever it might be. That's an important piece for me. Part of my value is having that peace, and I'm blessed to make sure that I continue with that journey that you and I have.
Yeah, you are a very faith-filled man and such a strong leader for our relationship, and that was something that I was missing. We go back to, what are you looking for? That's why you date people. Really knowing yourself will help make that, well, it'll help you provide or get clarity on what you
100%.
want.
Yeah.
If you can't definitively say what you want out of a relationship, I think
You shouldn't be dating.
you should
You should not even be in a relationship then. Am I right?
correct. Well, you shouldn't be putting yourself out there if you don't know what you want,
Yeah, it
because
starts
that's
with-
going to confuse you, and that's
Mhm.
going to maybe
Mhm.
perhaps have you fall back into old patterns of relationships and just settling or doing what's comfortable. I remember during our initial kind of conversations before we met, you point blank asked me, "What do you want?" And I responded, and you said that was a really good answer.
Yeah.
I said, "Thank you."
Yeah.
I know.
And
I know.
and just want to say this too, if you're in the process of dating too, just to backtrack, and a few turnoffs for me, I'll just tell you guys really quick, is the L word came too fast. Like, I get it. Like, some people fall in love like super, super fast.
That's lust.
Is that what it is? You think
I
it
think
is?
so.
I think it, but what's crazy is I think if it's too soon for a man, and I can only speak from a male's perspective, it's too soon for a man. I'm going to tell you, they just run. They go the other way, like, whoa, like they're holding up the cross sign, like, no.
Or
no.
they fall in because they're like, "Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for that." But they
Yeah.
don't really know.
Yeah.
They don't know that's what they want.
And one of the questions that we are asked is like, how are you reconnecting in either your current relationship, long-term relationships, or marriage? And I think it's vital, y'all, to be dating your significant other. And when I say date, get out of the house, dress up. Like last night, even though we went to the movies, she dressed up in some leather pants, and I was like, man, yes, wear those leather pants. Like literally, that's important, you guys, and or even surprise the woman. I'm working on that piece, but I have a couple plans that I have, like maybe blindfold them and be like, hey, just be ready at this time, dress up at this time. I know this. I know you love that idea.
I do.
And we're just gonna go somewhere, and then I'm blindfold you, and you're gonna see where we're at, and that's truly where it comes from. And don't forget that reconnection piece. Don't forget to put the phones away. Last night when we were at dinner,
Mhm.
were the phones on the table?
No.
No. We and as much as of an influence I may be, a digital creator that I am, is I make sure that when we are connecting, or sometimes even like today, there was an example where you asked me a pretty serious question, and I was like, I will get to that question. I was actually working. I was doing my content, and then we but just be present. I guess as I'm getting to the point is learn to be present in those moments when you have those times.
Well, you're a really good listener.
You guys hear that?
He is. It's really, really nice to be in a relationship where you're valued and you're appreciated and you're thought about and you're told that and it's said to you, and it makes it a lot easier to give that back in return.
Mm,
So you listen to me, you care about what I say, you want my opinions. um, and so it's easy for me to want to help you with chores around your house or cook dinner. And I want to do those things. I want to support you in all of the areas of your life because I'm not resentful. I'm not irritated that,
yeah.
oh my gosh, I just told him this and he just totally like disregarded it and didn't
Yeah.
listen, or it wasn't followed up on, or he said last week he was going to do X, Y, and Z and he didn't. You've never done that. And not to say that that won't happen,
Yeah.
but I think when you have respect and reciprocation in relationships, it's easier for me to say to you like, hey babe, you mentioned last week that you were going to do this, and you would be like, oh yeah, I did. I
Yeah.
forgive me, like I'll get to that today.
Yeah. And own it.
Yes, own it. Do
Own the
not become
issues.
defensive about it.
Yeah, because I think if you that's a problem though too, is being defensive. And I hope you guys that are listening to this, and thank you so much for the positive remarks that I'm getting in the live feature that I have right now. I appreciate that. And not only that, but I also just want to say is when we accept, here's the thing, your mate should call you out on your BS. Like truly, if they truly love you and they believe in you and they aspire, they like you're like the man of the household and you lead. Men, first of all, lead. If you're gonna lead, you're gonna take that baton and you're the leader. Lead correctly.
Man has to have some balls.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, I am a woman that believes women can do anything, that women are as strong as men. And I laugh because my brother in law and I have this conversation a lot. So that's funny. But, anyways, women are as strong as men. We can work the same jobs that men can. We can make as much money. We can do yard work. We can do all the things, and we can. But just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Mm,
And this is something I've learned. My girlfriends and I talk about this, that we want our men to take the lead on some things so we don't have to. We certainly can do it, but sometimes just take it off. So we want to be in our feminine self. We want to be nurturers. We don't want to always have to do all the things all the time. So taking the lead is something I really find to be sexy, and I it's one of the reasons I love you so much.
Oh, thank you. And you know, I tell you, and you know, we're in the beginning stages of every relationship. I remember we were somewhere and we were acting a certain way. Maybe we might have been holding hands, or you know, and I remember someone making a comment. Oh, you guys are so.
We're in the like honeymoon
You
phase
guys
or
are in the
something.
honeymoon phase. You guys, that honeymoon phase can honestly, I believe, can always be there. And but that requires work. That requires committing. That requires reconnecting. I mean, do you feel like you guys are strangers in the night where you're just like passing in the doors, you know, like, hey, hey, like when are you connecting? Go for a walk. Talk on the walk. Don't bring your cell phone. Just talk.
Mhm.
I think those are really good ways to make sure that you're reconnecting and date at least, I'd say at least 2 times a month.
Yeah,
You know, I think that's important.
I agree.
And you know, some of the foundations we kind of alluded to some of this, but I think the foundations of a quality relationship is one is trust. I think that is a big thing. Um, Amber's one of the first people that I have, but I wanted to say this before I get into that is, you know, we all got pasts. We all got things that shit that we had in the past that weren't who we are or who the ideal person that we are. And it doesn't define us, or past doesn't define us. I often talk about that in my framework and my with my clients and just with in general. But I realized when I was after getting out of the situations that I got is like I wanted to truly trust the other person. And you know, my old co-host would always say vulnerability. I hate that word as a man, but but I think you have to be to develop the trust and let them know who you are. And I really got the opportunity, and I've gotten burned, you guys. I'm not gonna lie. And maybe that's the reason why I held back so much, so long for so many time, for so many years in the relationships that I have been. And we were just talking about that. I'll probably add some of that stuff in the book that I'm writing. Still working on that, by the way. And but it's a release when the other person knows who you are
Hmm.
inside and out. And now some people will be like, well, why do they need to know your past? Well, I like to say, well, why not? Why not? That doesn't define you. That doesn't make who you are. But I'm curious on what your perception on what I just said, because we had some pretty extensive conversations yesterday about some things. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
We did. Mm. I would. You just spoke of having a partner who challenges you. So, would you say that was always your thought though in our relationship
What was?
to let me or whomever you were in a relationship with know your past?
No, I think I was just too guarded, and I really feel,
It's
um,
cathartic.
yeah, like home, like
Oh.
it's important. And there's three loves, you guys, that happen in
There
life,
is.
and being the dog, the old dog, I guess for some, if you want to use that analogy, that maybe he's been around the block a few times. There's three loves, you guys, in your life. That's what the gurus say.
Do, I think I know what they are, the three loves.
Oh, what are they?
The first one is a young love,
Mm,
like
mm-hmm.
that you probably won't ever forget.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
the second one is the long love
yeah,
that like teaches you things
yeah,
where there's like trials and tribulations and you really grow from that love.
yeah.
And then the third love is the love that kind of hits you unexpectedly, and it's the last
Out of nowhere.
love.
Yeah, it's out of nowhere. Like
Hmm.
whoa, wow. Why did that even happen?
Isn't it? It's so true though.
It
If
it
you
it
break it down
is.
and look at your own life,
Yeah.
and maybe you've had a couple that fell into like that first love phase,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
but I think that trust and vulnerability and being able to be honest
Hmm.
about all the things of your past and really breaking down those walls. I told you big things that happened in my past, and I think at some level I like made it this big conversation.
Yeah, I remember how that conversation was. It was
I
like, I have something really like
well,
we just started. We
were no, yes,
okay.
we were
All right.
dating.
Yeah.
But for okay, so Michael and
It wasn't a big deal either. She thought it was
it
bigger than
was a
what she.
big
It was
deal.
a bigger.
It was a big deal for me.
It was. It was. I'm
Yes.
not
No, I
disregarding
know.
that. For me, it was like, all right, moving on.
So, and I just love you for that. But I think this is cool to kind of like round this out. Michael and I at different times in our dating it felt differently. So and we talk about this now, kind of when did we know that you were probably the one I was going to continue to pursue? And I treaded very lightly with him because I did know that he would run, but I also wanted him to know and express to him, I want to spend more time with you.
Yeah.
I want to go
Yeah.
on more dates with you.
Yeah.
I need a little bit more
Yep.
from you if I'm going to kind of stick around and not go to the other M's that were available. And he answered that. He did that. He called more. He texted more. He asked me out more. I don't remember what I was talking about.
Well, I want to, when you remember, just chime
Yeah.
in here. You know, there's a big thing that we want to discuss here as we got a few more minutes on the pod here. But you want to treat your significant other with high regard. I'm going to give you an example, and I truly remember this. We were on a trip, and we just got off the. I think you're going to know exactly where I'm going with this. We got off the elevator, and it was an older couple, and I hear the woman say, "Why are you wearing those? What are
Oh,
you doing?
yes.
How are you doing this?" And I felt, I don't know about you, but I had this feeling that came over me like I don't ever want to be like that. Like I don't ever want to feel that way. I felt for this man,
So bad.
and granted, I think he wore his shoes to the pool, and they might have gotten wet, so they were making like a little bit of a noise. And she's like, "Did you have to wear those shoes at the pool, or something like that?" And he
And
just
she was like degrading him, how he packed his toiletries.
yeah, in public,
Yeah, and I
in
was
front
like,
of people. And and I just want to say this, you guys, for those, no matter how upset or unhappy, I think what I alluded to right away is that's a very unhappy, unfulfilled couple that maybe has been around. Maybe been together for 20 plus years. And I cannot literally speak to anyone that's been there that long, but I can tell you this. If you're going to be in the damn relationship, love them the way they want to be loved and respect them the way they want to be respected, because that to me was, and it's like I know, and I hear this all the time. It's like, well, I'm married, what am I supposed to do, get a divorce? Well, if I get a divorce, I'm going to lose all of these things.
no, you don't need to get a divorce. You need to look within yourself. I shouldn't say you need to. That's very much like
Yeah.
you need to do this.
Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity for individuals to take a step back and say, what am I contributing to relationships?
What value do I bring?
We always are quick, myself included, to
Mhm.
look to the other person or the other friend, if this isn't a intimate relationship, and be like, well, they do this all the time and it really irritates me, or when he does this or he does that. Well, why don't we stop, kind of step back for a second and be like, well, what am I doing to contribute to that? Is it me? And really being reflective and taking some awareness around how you're showing up. I always say, like, I say this more at work, like, show up how you want to be treated and how you want to be remembered.
Yeah.
Like, You need to show up as your best self, not just at work because you're making money, but really where you need to be showing up as your best self is in your relationship. And some days you're not going to be your best self, but that's
Mm.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, with what you just said too, it's not 50-50.
No.
It might be 100-0 one day. Like Fridays are really exhausting for me, and because I pour in all this energy to clients and people and everything like that, and Amber knows that I'm not my best Michael Hicks, but once I get rest and sleep, but she just takes over then.
Yeah.
But then it's reciprocated as well.
Mhm.
So know that, you guys, that's really important. And I want to talk about what you had talked about is in relationships and just in general, as who we are, as our DNA and our human nature, it's so easy to ridicule. It's so easy to ridicule. Point the finger. It really takes a challenge and a mindset growth to really say, "Oh, you look beautiful today. I love what you're wearing. Gosh, you look great. Your legs look amazing. You've been working really hard on your body." Like you really got to get in the framework, you guys that are listening. You should really just journal the positive things that you are saying to your significant other during the course of the week. And they should outweigh like literally 10-1. I would even say 10-0 of the negativities, because that's where relationships grow.
And I say, when he says those things, I say, thank you. I love it when you say that to me, because that validates and affirms that what he's doing is making me happy.
Yeah. And and here's the thing too, we're still learning each other in the process, and I think you should always learn from one another. You should never be the couple that when they go out to eat, they're both sitting and reading a newspaper or on their I see this all the time, and it just irritates me, and I'm just like, can I just sit down next to you guys and talk to you? Because like, stop it. Stop it. And with all that is like, you know, love your person like you would love yourself, and learn how to be selfless and learn how to provide those compliments. And if you're truly struggling with any of that, I can help, like literally, to give a plug right now with my program will help you conquer that negative limiting mindset, and help you build that growth mindset, and help you with the relationship piece. And where do you go when you're you know So where do you guys go? And for those of you who are listening, this is kind of be a listen question for you, and then I want to ask you about it too. Is when you have a problem
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
are you going to family members?
Mm.
Are you going to
Mm.
friends to talk about it? Or is that problem stay with your person?
Yeah, that's good, honey. That's real good. He's asking me this because he knows I'm super close to my family, so he wants to know how much they know about him.
No, we've talked. We because it's like setting boundaries.
It is. I had to learn. Full disclosure, um, through my growth journey, as we've been talking about and continued, I have had to set boundaries with family, not because I don't want to share everything with them. Rather, there's a time and a place for that, and sharing things that are positive and not negative, and not uh, putting out this like perspective that my relationship is a certain way and I need help with that. There definitely are times where you need support and guidance from your friends and your family when things are going on in your relationship, but it's how you deliver the message. Is it like, oh my gosh, Michael is so irritating, he's so annoying, I can't even stand this, blah, 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 blah? Or is it, hey, friend, hey, family, I'm really looking for some advice on how I can do better and go about this situation with my boyfriend? Um, if that's the case. But if you are having a problem or a challenge, it's for you two to reflect,
Yeah.
to take some space. And I think we've done this. I mean, knock on wood, we haven't had a ton of challenges in our relationship that we couldn't handle. I don't think.
Not at all.
But the things that have the bumps in the road that have happened, we've taken time. We have kind of been alone to like come back to each other and say like, hey, I'm really sorry that I did that, or that I made you feel that way. That was not my intent. And in my past, I would have taken that to family or friends and gotten uh, well intent, well meaning. I don't know the word.
Well, intentful.
Yeah, the intent was good advice, but it wasn't. They don't know the ins and outs of you and I,
Right.
right?
And I want to say this too: if you are going to confide in someone, they should be sticking up. So, say for example, if I had parents, my parents are no longer on the planet, and I had talked to my mom about Amber and I.
Mm,
My mom should say,
yep.
"Well, I think Michael is right in this scenario. Here's why." They should be sticking up for the other person because I
Mm-hmm.
truly believe for a solidified foundational relationship, that's piece of part of it. And I knew going into this relationship that Amber has a huge family. I know that literally if I'm marrying her side or in a relationship with her family as well, because that's who she is. That's the part. We fit really well because the other side is it's just the opposite for me. But I think what's important is they are sticking up for you, and that's because you should be leading by example.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lead by example, and you're doing your character is true and genuine, those things should happen. We think.
I agree. I have really close girlfriends, and some of us talk every day. And one of the things I really appreciate about our relationship and how we have grown is that when we do lean on each other for support, we can call them out too. Like, I think maybe you need to
Yeah,
look
that's
at
good.
this, or
Yeah.
you need to do that.
Yeah.
It's not always kind of like sticking up for that person. We support them,
Yeah.
but we are all not perfect. Like, we don't always make the right choice. And so if it's not your best closest friends that can call you out, then who can?
But those are good friends.
Yes.
Good friends are going to challenge you. Good friends are going to do the right thing, not just because they love you, but they're going to do the right thing so that you can thrive in your relationship because they believe in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And as we are wrapping up the podcast here today, relationships are not easy. Relationships are work. They're but it comes down to the original statement is you need to know yourself, what you want, how you want it, and what value are you going to bring to the relationship. And it requires a lot of work. And I know I put in the work because I think I got Amber as a result because it took me time to understand what I needed in a person. I don't need a person that wants to go in the bars and the clubs and drink and drink and drink and self-soothe and self-gratify. Like, I don't want that. I want someone that, hey, let's go play tennis, let's go for a walk, let's go work out, let's travel. Like, those are all really important pieces for me. Not only that, but we're praying together. Like, we pray together. And for those of you that are in relationships, if you truly are not doing that, I think you're missing the foundational piece. And I'm only saying that because I failed in relationships that I didn't have that as the foundation. And they should know your relationship with your creator. They should know the value that brings. And I, we were praying, and Amber's like, gosh, you just pray well. And I've been told this when I was coaching professional athletes. We would always circle up and I would just pray. And I would always ask my athletes, like, what do you want to pray about today? Talk to me, tell me. And I'd pray about it. And then I remember distinctively I had this player come up to me after practice, and she was like, Coach, how do you just learn to pray? And it's kind of like a relationship. It just needs consistency. It needs, you know, constantly reaffirming. It's like just talking. You're just having a conversation with someone that you truly believe. And I have had miracles in my life because of my faith. And I wouldn't be here today having this podcast if it wasn't for my faith. But that's kind of what I'm thinking. But you need that as a nutshell, you know. And don't play the victim card, y'all. Oh man, like don't be the victim. Don't be the victim. Look in the mirror and be like, what can I do better?
Right.
Because truly, men, and I'm just speaking to the men out there that are listening, if you are leading and you lead by that, like what do I need? Like if she's struggling, my response, and you can tell everybody, is like, what do you need for me to help you through this? How do you want me to show up for you on this?
And sometimes I say I don't know. I need you to just listen and or give me a hug and that's what he does.
Yeah. Anything you want to add here before we wrap it up today?
Date, find yourself, love yourself.
And what do you do with if someone, you're in the dating spectrum, and you want to date, and they want to date you, but then they're like, I just want to date you. I don't want you to date anybody else. I want to just say my piece really quick. You guys, that's not the right person for you. If you're not ready and solely want to be exclusive with that person and they provide you with an ultimatum, then you got to say, I'm good.
I think we all have the right to have our own opinions or what we want. If you don't want to date someone that's dating other people, you are absolutely entitled to your right on that, right? Like that's your thought, your opinion, that's what you want.
Yeah.
But if that person is someone you enjoy, you can't put parameters around what they do 100%. And still expect them to meet that need for you. But then the other part of that is the other side has to be very clear and know what they want. If you want to date and not just date this one person, then you gotta be strong enough to say that. Because if you're not, then maybe you're not ready.
That's it right there. You're not ready to date if you cannot stand up for yourself.
If you want to be in a relationship and be monogamous, then do that.
Yes.
But if you want to date and then you just are going to date this one person, that's not dating.
Yeah. And you're forcing your hand only to be miserable later. Yeah, you really are.
Maybe. Or maybe it'll work out. Maybe it'll be great. I don't know. I'm an eternal optimist sometimes.
Yeah, you are. I don't see it working out because you're going to find out there are going to be more issues along the way later on, and then you're going to be more involved than what you were before. It'd have been easier just to break it off then. But yeah, so thank you everybody that were listening. Thank you for the wonderful live comments. Appreciate the love with that. We love to have trolls and people that want to impact us positively.
Oh, and we want your feedback.
Yeah, give us your feedback. Please be so kind. Hit the subscribe button. And if you could kindly just send this to some people, that would be awesome. Give us a review. That would be really appreciated. Continue emailing us any suggestions for podcasts. Got some really cool ones coming up. Excited to hear about them. And as always, any final words before we leave today?
No, but I think you do.
Okay. As always, 1% better in mind, body, and soul. And always stay flexed. Let me get that one.
What do I hit?
The X button.
Are you